Hey everyone, this week we're going to talk a little bit about the mental side of being an entrepreneur and some of the challenges that go along with it. And I've struggled with a bunch of these challenges myself. And so I have some tips and tricks for you as you enter the world of a boss and a schedule set for you. So one of the biggest things that I've struggled with and people I talk to also struggle with is that when you're your own boss, there's nobody breathing down your neck waiting for you to hand in that project or that report, or in our case, telling you where to be and having you make sure you do all your charts on time. It's kind of up to you. But the clinical stuff you guys can handle. You know how to get that done. You've been through residency, you've been through your training programs, and the clinical stuff you guys can kind of do with your eyes closed sometimes. But as far as the entrepreneurial side, it's a little bit harder because there's no more urgency behind all of your actions, right? Building a website, for some people, it could take you 2 years because you get distracted or you throw up excuses or it's just not fun. And so you look to do something else. Or there's some perfectionism going on. For other things that are like long-term projects, maybe you want to start an online course or write your book. You don't have, it's not urgent. Nobody's waiting for you to turn in your next manuscript draft for your book. So it kind of falls down by the wayside, but it is important, or if it's important to you, but it's not urgent, it just maybe won't get done. And so what I've discovered in my journey ship is that if you don't have a boss, you kind of have to make yourself be your own boss. And there's a lot of tricks and tips for that. One of which is popularly called the Pomodoro Method. You may have heard at some point during your studies that you should study for 50 minutes, 50, and then take a 10-minute break. And that's great. And that's, there's a lot of science behind that. This Pomodoro Method is by an Italian who has written a book and all that, and I'll put the links below, but has a whole system around it. But essentially it's set a 25-minute timer and you work on one task and one task only during those 25 minutes. Then you get a 5-minute break afterwards. Now, it sounds really simplistic, and it honestly is, but for those of you struggling with indecision or overwhelm, like writing down all the things you have to do on a list, then selecting them one by one and just setting a 25-minute timer. It can be a kitchen egg timer. It can be a timer on your phone. Physical timers have been shown to work better. So a kitchen timer would be better than a phone timer. But if you can't stand the click, 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 click of like a timer like that ticking away, there's other options. It's called the Pomodoro technique because this Italian man used a kitchen timer shaped like a tomato, which in Italy is Pomodoro. And so it became the Pomodoro technique because his egg timer was shaped like a tomato. There's other options out there. Again, you can use your phone. It can be free. I like to use this clock. More accurately, it's a timer, actually recommended by my sister-in-law, who's an OT for peds. And so you can see how much time is remaining on the clock. At the end, you can choose to make it beep, or if you get into a flow and you are in a groove and you want to keep going, you can turn off the beep. As you can see, there was no beep there. So this is good for visual, seeing how much time you have left. It's also good for doing the physical act of turning this. Is kind of like a mental psychological trick in your brain that, yes, I'm committing to this task and this task only for the next 25 minutes. And then once you get to here, you can set a 5-minute timer break, boom, just like that. So it sounds very simplistic, but it's one of the easiest things you can do using your phone or your kitchen timer or timer on your oven, possibly, if you don't like the tick, tick, tick. It's one of the most productive things you can do for those tasks that are urgent yet not important. Strike that are important but that aren't pressing. They don't have a near deadline. No one's waiting for you to get back to them. No one is saying, hey, where's your last draft on that? Hey, I'm really excited about your book. When's it coming out? Like, no one's really doing that unless they're your family members. But it doesn't feel great when you say, yeah, I don't have time for that. And without placing any blame on you, because we all struggle with this, important but not urgent task is that if you set time aside for it, put it in your calendar, and then just start with 25 minutes. I mean, if you do 25 minutes a week, I mean, that's an episode of Friends, right? Or what's more topical these days, that's an episode of Ted Lasso, I think. it's just setting aside little mini times, and then 25 minutes isn't too long for you to spend on any one topic. Then you can check email afterwards. You can go for a little walk. You can get a little snack during those 5 minutes, and you can adapt it however much it fits you. You can do 50 and 10, which is what the experts have said is kind of like the limit of adult attention spans. However, if you have a shorter attention span or you've got a million things to do, starting with 25 minutes or starting with 15 minutes and then getting a 5-minute break, that might be enough to jumpstart you. Because for most projects that have some level of overwhelm, the hardest part is getting started, because you're like, wow, that's really hard. I don't know where to start. And so let me watch this YouTube video instead. I get it. I've been there. But if you can kind of just set your timer and say, all right, I just need to do 15 minutes. I'll just make an outline and then I'll take a quick break. Right. And that's a lot more with the psychological tricks. I mean, there's all the science behind it. And some of you that are in, brain health may know all the names for these tricks, but it's just kind of reinforcing positive reinforcement for you and your brain. So if you're struggling with a long-term project or something that as an entrepreneur is no longer, you don't have anyone to answer to, then I suggest this Pomodoro method or the timer method, however you want. And I'll put links to the original book, and his website has a bunch of great information, and that's free. But it doesn't take long to get started. You could probably do it today. So I hope that helps you with your entrepreneurial journey as you prioritize things that are important, but maybe aren't quite urgent today. So you can make them urgent in your brain by using the Pomodoro technique. All right, we'll see you guys next time.